Thank you so much for joining us for the mayoral portion of our citywide candidates forum this evening. Once again, my name is Catherine McLaughlin. I am the city reporter with the Concord Monitor, and I'm joined by Amelia Wisniewski, who is our engagement editor. And we are joined this evening by Kate West and Mayor Byron Champlin. We're going to kick things off once again with 1-minute opening statements, and we're going to begin alphabetically as always with Mayor Champlin.
Well, thank you, Catherine.
Please use the mic.
Oh, of course, I'm sorry. Thank you, Cat. Are we on? I think we're off. Hang on. There we go.
There you go.
Thank you, Catherine. I also would like to thank the Concord Monitor for the opportunity for this forum, as well as Concord TV for recording it. And I really want to thank all the people who are in this audience. I've been to a lot of these forums, and usually it consists of candidates, families, and incumbents. This is a great cross-section of our community, so thank you. My name is Byron Champlin. It's been my great honor and pleasure to serve as your mayor for the past 2 years. I moved to the city about 42 years ago. My wife and I had 2 daughters here. They both went through Concord schools. They both continue to live here. I have 2 grandsons who are in the school system. I have 3 priorities for the city. One is economic development to broaden the tax base, take pressure off of the residential property owners and property taxpayers. The second is to expand housing opportunities. And the third is to ensure that we have a safe community for everyone to live in. It's been a challenging couple of years. I think we're going to have a challenging couple of years ahead of us. So it would be my great honor to continue as your mayor. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Kate West, and I am also running for mayor. I am a parent. I work full-time. I have volunteered with Change for Concord in the community. I've worked for a local nonprofit in the community. Right now, I work for a small business owner in downtown. And the reason that I'm running is because I've found that it's difficult to show up to a city council meeting and not have the opportunity to address your representatives about what's important to you. So I started a petition to include public comment on any topic at our city council meetings. I do believe that for efficiency purposes, the idea of a time limit does make sense. But as it currently stands, if you wanted to go to your monthly city council meeting and have it be on public record, what's important to you, how you feel about what's going on, unless it's previously approved on the agenda, you don't have the opportunity to do that. And I would like to change that. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here. This is a lovely turnout. I forget that.
Thank you so much, Kate. So on that point, actually, and this question will be directed to you, Mayor Champlin.
Sure.
So the addition of a public comment period. You previously said that you're against such a thing. So why is that, if you can explain?
Sure. I am opposed to it. I understand Kate's position and those positions of other people. I have a couple of reasons. One is I've watched public comment during the discussions about the middle school and the school district. School district is required by statute to hold a public comment section. What I've seen is a great deal of frustration because the public comment section is basically members of the school board or members of the elected body listening silently to people talk. There's no interaction. There's no, there's no questioning. And my observation is that that's very frustrating for the public. The second thing is, on issues that are before the city council on which we vote, there are opportunities for a public hearing where people can express their opinion on something we're actually going to vote on and can be questioned and respond to questions by the city council. Anyone who wants to express their opinion to city council can reach out to their councilor or to their at-large councilor or to the mayor, and I can say many people do. And so I think those are sufficient for public comment in a very positive way. I don't think it's the job of city council to give somebody a platform for all the various positions, because that's really what it is, to provide a public platform for an individual as opposed to providing testimony.
Thank you. Would you like a chance to respond, or shall we move on?
I thought it was for both of us anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do want to state that I also believe that there are a number of other barriers to access when it comes to participating in decision making in our municipal government. I've gone to the council a few times and mentioned that the buses don't run when the city council holds their meetings, that there's not a stop at the council chambers, that we have folks in our community that don't speak English as a first language, and that translation services would help to bridge that barrier. That as much as I do utilize and am so appreciative of Concord TV recording these kinds of sessions so that I can participate at home as a single parent that has to cook dinner, help somebody do homework, put them to bed on time, and I still want to be involved and engaged. So that said, it may be that in order for something to become viable for a vote, for the city council to know about it, you would have to still allow people to come and tell you what's important to them. And so I really strongly believe that we can't premeditate and understand what's important to our constituents. We have to continue to allow them to come and express themselves, even if that expression is criticism, because how else are we going to learn? How else are we going to represent you if we can't
Ms. West.
always hear from you?
Thank you.
Forget. I really want them to have that.
You can
I
keep
know
it,
you
actually,
do.
the first question next is for you.
There you go.
So, Ms. West, you said you support a sanctioned encampment for people experiencing homelessness in Concord, where they could stay without getting a trespassing arrest or facing an unexpected police sweep. How do you envision this operating? Who would own the land, and how much is it acceptable to spend on an initiative like that?
Well, I don't think sitting here right now, I could answer the question of how much to spend, because I don't know the material cost of any of those things that would be proposed, right? So city services would likely be necessary in order to keep a sanctioned encampment safe. What I can tell you is the reason behind my support, my broad support for something like that, is meeting people where they're at and understanding that getting out of poverty is incremental and it takes support. So we have people in our community that do need to camp at this moment in their life in order to have a place to sleep at night. And if we want to see less of that and we want to support our neighbors in being able to get out of that situation, and we have folks in the community that consistently speak about feeling as though they're unsafe given the way that the encampments are now, that we can be proactive and intentional about creating a system that is both safe and allows that access and that continued survival for people that need it.
Thank you. Mayor Champlin, you don't endorse this idea, but you have said that you generally support the idea for a proposal by a local nonprofit looking to build a tiny home community as transitional housing in the city, if they can find the land. Among the city council priorities is the lists the sale of unused city-owned sites or real estate for housing opportunities. If that nonprofit was interested, would you be open to such a community being located on city property?
That's a great question. Thank you, Catherine. I think it would. We'd have to look at what piece of city property. I mean, whether or not we do have a piece of city property that would be appropriate. In fact, we went through this exercise when I was a counselor, probably 6 or 8 years ago, with the Concord Coalition to End Homelessness. And what we identified was that it was very difficult to find a piece of property that was large enough, and at the time, due to federal funding requirements, that was also on the bus line that belonged to the city. In fact, the one piece of property we found was off of Loudon Road behind the Shell station down by the El Rodeo restaurant. And what we discovered was that that was contaminated property, and it would be inappropriate for to basically build housing there. So it would depend on whether or not we could find a site. I think it would probably be a challenge to find an appropriate piece of property.
Thank you so much. So the Monitor last year did a series called Seized and Sold, where it chronicled how Concord and other municipalities in the state take the homes of people who don't pay their property taxes and sell them to pay off the debt. On one hand, everybody needs to pay taxes, but at the same time, the cost to the city of a person or family becoming unhoused may be greater than their tax debt that they had beforehand. So to both of you, do you think it is in the city's interest to forgive small amounts of property tax debt? And we can start with Mayor Champlin.
Yeah, and we do that on a regular basis. And as a matter of fact, that's on our agenda next Tuesday for our regular city council meeting. There are a number of properties, I don't have the number off the top of my head, which the council is going to have the opportunity to forgive. There are also 2 properties which we are not going to forgive. One of them is someone who's been in arrears for a long time and in the past has paid their property tax once they were in jeopardy of losing their house. And the other is a property which is abandoned, vacant, blighted, and for which I personally received complaints by abutters. So yeah, I think it is appropriate, and I think that we do it quite frequently, and I think that our city staff does work with property owners to try to help them find a solution to any challenges they have in paying their property taxes.
I really love that answer because I do believe that situation is case by case and pretty nuanced, right? So definitely having a municipal government that recognizes the humanity of our constituents and works with them to understand their circumstances and the barriers that they're facing and to keep people in their homes, that is a priority. I would say if you are somebody that maybe it's your second or third property that you're not paying taxes on, I would look at that differently than somebody that is at risk of losing their housing in the community.
Thank you. Thank you both. Ms. West, we'll start with you for this next question. I think it's no secret that this isn't an easy time to be in city or local government, and Concord in particular has a lot of big challenges in the years ahead. The mayor has argued that someone who has been at the council table for some time and who's well versed in the city's business should be at the helm of the council. What do you say to people who worry about a newcomer in this role? And how would you go about leading a group of people with more time on the council than you, including some with decades more time?
I think the first thing that I would say is having somebody that's not had decades of experience means that they're willing to try new ideas and look at things differently. It also means that I'm completely willing to learn. Like I said, I really want to mobilize the community and figure out how to have this level of participation consistently from the people that we serve, which means that in that position, I'll have the support of all of you to assist me in telling me what it is that you want. I also understand that our municipal government isn't just led by the council, but that there are a lot of decisions made by our city manager. So I think, one of the benefits of having a person that's not been consistently in the government as it's been running is an opportunity for change, an opportunity to accept that maybe the path that we've been on for years isn't where we're going to end up if it means that, for example, the property taxes get to a point where our neighbors risk not being able to stay in their homes. One of the things I've noticed is that with capital improvement projects, the culture of the council seems to be that they've been almost sunken cost fallacy, that they've been on this path to do this project and it needs to be done. But someone like me is willing to come in and ask if we can recalibrate and assess while also asking questions that would then, I think, make the process more accessible.
Ms. West.
So sorry. Because if I don't understand and I need to get clarification, you might not understand and you might need clarification as well.
Thank you. On the flip side of this, Mayor Champlin, Ms. West has argued that she has a unique insight into council business and especially into some of the direst issues facing city residents because she's in a different position. She's recently faced some of their same obstacles. A solid majority of the current city councilors are homeowners over 50 who lived in Concord for a decade or longer. Does the council lack a diversity of experience?
No, I don't think that the council lacks diversity of experience. I mean, I think that we have a fairly heterogeneous council. One of the most heterogeneous in the 12 years that I've served on city council. I understand that sometimes people reach a certain point in life where they have time to put into volunteer efforts, and serving on city council really is a volunteer effort. But I think that people come from a lot of different perspectives on city council. I mean, there's a great deal of difference between, say, Councilor Sekou and, Councilor Keach or Councilor Grady Sexton or Councilor Horn. I think that we have great conversations around the table because of all the gifts and different life experiences that all of those people bring to our conversations. I think one of the challenges as mayor, and I've said this at previous forums, is that there's a big difference between sitting on the periphery of the table as a councilor, either at large or a ward councilor, and sitting in the center seat as the mayor. Because you really have to be, you approve the agendas, you have to run the meetings, you have to make sure they run efficiently. And in previous forums, there has been some criticism of this past 2 years council. Because we've had almost 50% of the councilors in their first term not experienced in the ways that council works. And council is kind of like a highway. You have to know which lane you're supposed to be in, where the off ramps are, where the on ramps are. And the mayor's job in in a great measure, is making sure that we don't have any smash ups.
Thank you so much.
Do you mind if I follow up just briefly?
You have 15 seconds.
I just wanted to say that, when it comes to counselors being inexperienced, I do think that it's the role of the mayor, the responsibility to provide the training necessary so that each counselor has the skills they need to be effective and expedient at their job. So I think that would be something that I would focus on.
Thank you so much. So the public learned at a meeting last night that much of the former insurance building bought by the city for a new police headquarters doesn't meet the building code required for police facilities, something the city's due diligence period didn't dive into. The plans now include a much larger than expected addition to the new building. Do you feel that this project is a good deal for taxpayers? And we'll start with you, Mayor Champlin.
Sure. Well, first of all, with respect, I think that's a mischaracterization of the situation, frankly. We purchased the old Concord life insurance building as a site, and we have a desire to maintain and preserve the mid-century modern front part of that building. There are two halves of the design that was unveiled last night. One is the office space in the front part of the building, the existing historic building. The other is a hardened addition, which would contain vital services like the dispatcher, police equipment, things of that nature. And that's required to be a more hardened site so that in the event of a disaster, your vital services are protected. And that's not a surprise. The other thing is the initial design was just a concept design. There was no significant thought put in. It was basically, this is what we think we're going to do with this site. We're going, here's the existing building, and here's an addition of some size that's going to be there. What's happened now is we brought in experts and architects, and they've sat down with the police department, and they've heard what the police department says they need in that addition. Now, the city council may very well request that that be scaled down. But part of the plan is to end up at the end of this with enough space. What they're proposing is to have about 1,700 square feet of unused space that we can expand into. But part of this is to take police vehicles, which now are stored outside, bring them inside, and have a much safer environment for our officers to work in, which is an important factor in recruiting.
When I was at the meeting last night, I asked if the accreditation was more so something that was meeting national standards or if it was about legal compliance. And the answer that I got, and as I understand it, is that we're in compliance now because compliance is more procedural than anything else. And that really what we're looking to do with building a new police station in the old insurance building is to meet a national standard. And in fact, that the building that they want to build the station in does not help us meet that standard, which is why the addition needs to be built. On top of that, there's extra space that is not going to be used for police use, but is up for
Community use.
so, which sounds to me like the idea is when something in the community seems to be unilateral purpose, that the city likes to say that it can be used as a community space. I would like to look deeper into this project because I don't understand currently in its current state how it's an efficient use of taxpayer dollars. I also think that culturally, when we think about candidate Deschamier's point about the root cause of a lack of safety or the root cause of crime in the community, that we want to think about whether or not we're planning on expanding our police force to the degree that would need that much space, or if we want to really invest in resources that get to that root cause of why folks end up in a position where they are engaging in criminal activity in the first place.
Thank you. Concord carries an unassigned fund balance, sometimes called a rainy day fund, of more than $15 million. As a proportion of its operating expenses, that's more than the vast majority of other cities and towns in New Hampshire, proportionally speaking. Is Concord approaching a rainy day? Some might say you're taxing residents more than you need. Do you think the city should spend down some of this reserve in the next few years? And regardless of whether or not you think the answer to that question is yes, what do you see as appropriate ways to spend that money when the time comes? Ms. West, we'll start with you.
So, starting from the beginning of that question, what you're saying is the city has a rainy
day fund, and you're asking how that money should be utilized, if at all?
Correct. To clarify more what an unassigned fund balance is, when there's surplus or money that comes in that doesn't get tucked away into a specific reserve, it goes towards the city's rainy day fund. Communities keep rainy day funds of different sizes, and they're usually measured as a proportion of your annual operating expenses. Concord's as a proportion is over 20% of our operating expenses. Most other communities, or at least the state recommends, you keep between, I believe it's around 8 and 15%. So the question is, should we spend down some of that money, and where should it go?
I almost feel like this is a trick question because back to the taxpayers, right? Isn't that the answer? Is back to the taxpayers. And when when candidate Deschamier was sitting here talking about lowering property taxes because we want our neighbors to be able to stay in their homes and afford to be able to live here. I would be hard pressed to talk to the city manager, and there's likely reasons that they have for continuing to hold on to that surplus. And I think I would want a detailed understanding that could then be clearly communicated to constituents before I would move to spend it on anything else.
My turn?
Yes, I'm about to get that.
Well, the unassigned fund balance is there for a specific purpose. When we have a AA+ bond rating from Standard & Poor's, And that bond rating allows us to borrow money at a much lower interest rate. And part of the reason we have that rating is because we have a significant undesignated fund balance. When does a rainy day occur? I'll give you an example. Back during COVID in 2020, we were very concerned because of the impact of people sheltering in their homes. We were concerned about people not being able to go out, people's incomes being restricted because of COVID. We had a 0% tax rate increase that year. And the way we did that was to take money from the undesignated fund balance and use that to pay for the increases in the budget that were necessary to keep the city running. Now, had we not had that, we would not have been able to take that step. The other thing is that some of this money goes into the undesignated fund balance. Some of it goes into other funds like the Highway Reserve Fund, which this year was tapped for $2.8 million to do road resurfacing. Was not borrowed, was not added to the tax base. $2.8 million is about a 4% tax rate increase. But we did not do that because we had the money in the piggy bank that we could use, which we've been doing for the last several years, to do the paving with money that we already have.
So
Sorry, I just think it's time for us to move on.
That's fair.
So for the mayor, adding more housing and growing the tax base is not just a priority of yours, but of a vast majority of the councilors running for re-election this year. This isn't a new thought or concept to anyone.
Yeah.
The council's priorities point specifically to the need to get started on a master plan update, followed by a full zoning overhaul, and in the meantime, interim updates to the zoning code to help loosen things up. These priorities were set last March. It's now less than a month before the next election. The master plan update hasn't started, and only a few zoning updates have made it before the planning board, and more than one of those were first changed by state lawmakers, not the city. Why haven't these updates moved more quickly? Does Concord have a sufficient sense of urgency on doing its part to loosen the housing crisis?
Thanks. I was waiting for Catherine to pass me the mic, and I realized you had it. Yeah, I think we should have a sense of urgency. And I think we also should have some public input, which is why I've created a 2050 vision process. We just had the first meeting of a framing committee with New Hampshire Listens on that last week. I think that Concord, as Councilor Keach said earlier, I think Concord does have a reputation among some developers as being tough to do business with. And I've been working for the past 2 years, and I'd like to continue to work to turn that around. Some developers love doing business here. Some developers have challenges. And there's a balance that has to be reached between, ensuring that we're protecting the interests of the community in development, and also ensuring that we provide predictability and assurances to developers that their projects can be moved forward quickly and successfully and economically. It's a partnership, and I certainly will be working, if the voters allow me to, over the next 2 years in expediting that process.
If I can just elaborate on that, because you, Ms. West, have worked actively to involve young people in the state. And do you think that Concord right now does a good job of attracting and keeping young people in the area? And do you think the city council has a role to play in that?
No, I don't think that we're doing the best job. I think that two things can be true at once. We live in a community that is clearly trying, right? I mean, what I can see is passion and a desire to maintain a community where people feel like they can thrive and raise a family here. But materially, I think the reality for young people, and I think we hear this a lot, that it's not just Concord and it's not just New Hampshire, it's across the country. Materially, young people are really, really struggling. And on top of the reality of facing whether or not they'll ever be able to own a home whether or not they'll even be able to afford to rent in the community that they've grown up in, or the community that they've lived in and wanted to continue to thrive in. You know, I think that one of the really important steps for people in positions of power to be able to reach young people and to break down barriers and to support them and to give folks what they need in order to thrive is, again, hearing them. Figuring out if they're not coming to these forums, why is that? And where can we go to meet them where they're at? And how can we facilitate that participation? And the way to find out is to ask, is to consistently, oh, I'm so sorry, my time is up. To be intentional about finding young folks and asking them.
Great, thank you. So before we move on to a question we've had come into the audience, we do want to break things up with some questions that might be a little bit more fun. Not that the city budget isn't fun, but something that the two of you share is a love of music.
Oh gosh, yes.
So we have a couple rapid fire music questions for you, and Millie's going to start.
Yes, so remember to answer
Taylor Swift.
quickly. But starting with Ms. West, what's the most recent concert you went to in the Concord area?
Okay, well, not technically a concert, but I go to open mic at Panucci's on Wednesday nights. Highly recommend. Hopefully I'm going to see you all there next Wednesday. And it's rapid, that's it. Rapid fire.
Kate is in a great band. Can I say the name of your band?
You sure can.
Girl Spit. I think it's a great band. I always enjoy it. Go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah. So, what's your favorite place to see live music in Concord?
My favorite place to see live music in Concord is the Bank of New Hampshire stage. Panucci's is a close second. But I will tell you that the folks at the CCA will tell you that I have been hectoring them for years to get better bands.
Yeah.
Right?
Same question to Kate.
Yes. Same question.
I feel like it's unfair because I worked at the Capitol Center, so I also am going to say the stage.
If you use music streaming services, what were your top song and top artist of the year last year? And if you don't, what was your favorite song and album that came out this year? And we'll start with the mayor.
Oh, gosh. I don't use a streaming service. I actually buy old technology. I get CDs. My favorite last year. Wow. Can I tell you what my favorite so far this year is?
Yes.
It's Essex Honey by Blood Orange. He's a British performer. And it's an excellent, excellent album. I think it's great.
Okay, thanks. Top song, top album.
Great.
Or sorry, top song, top artist, excuse me.
Kendrick Lamar, Turn His TV Up, Turn His TV Up.
Great. Kate, we'll keep it with you. What is your go-to pump-up song?
Oh, Pump Up. Missy Elliott, Work It. Just being honest.
And Mayor Champlin, what is your pump-up song?
Probably Werewolves of London.
Warren Zevon?
Yeah.
Warren Zevon and Missy Elliott. We've got a vibe going.
Great. So our question from the audience, and we'll keep it with Ms. West since you have the microphone. What percentage of golf expenses, including bonds, should be paid by golfers versus taxpayers? And we'll keep it to a minute.
What percentage should be paid by golf?
What percentage of golf expenses, including the bonds, should be paid by golfers versus taxpayers?
I've not really been presented with that question in this way, so it's difficult. I personally don't understand why we have a public golf course to begin with, and I find it very difficult to stomach the idea of taxpayers in the community paying for the golf course at all. So in order to answer that question, I think I would have to have it explained to me in great detail why it is that we have taxpayers paying for a golf course. I apologize if that doesn't directly answer your question.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to directly answer it either, because because a lot of the golfers are taxpayers, and they also are retirees. I mean, two of my barbers play golf, and one of them has a season's pass at the Beaver Meadow Golf Club. To me, it's another recreational facility. I mean, how many skaters should pay what percentage of the Everett Arena as opposed to taxpayers? Well, the skaters there are many of them taxpayers. The difference between the difference with the golf course is actually does bring in revenue. Brought in about $2 million worth of revenue last year. So it's another city facility. It's another selling point as we're trying to market the community. It's one of the reasons that we're on the top 10 list of the hottest communities on the real estate market. People want to live here. People want to move here because we have a variety of things for people to do, whether it's public swimming pools, whether it's public tennis courts, whether it's places to play pickleball. We have it all.
Thank you so much. So this will be our last question before we go to closing statements. And the question is, working to make city government and services more accessible to all residents and more representative of all residents played a role in the campaign with you two both 2 years ago. Since, however, the broader political and legal climate has sourced on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Ms. West, what do you think of the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion work over the last few years, and what would your plan be on this topic going forward?
Not to be redundant, but public comment on any topic at your city council meetings is a start. When we talk about the DEI committee, I continue to point out the sort of inherent othering that needing that intentional separate committee creates, and that the real question is, why isn't the diverse representation inherent in everything we do in this city? Because really the way that we've agreed socially on the way that our municipal government works, and we've noticed that it's not working for folks, that there are people, because of their identities or their experiences, that the way we do things isn't working. I think that it's important to figure out why that is and to quickly resolve those barriers for those folks. And the way to do that is to ask them directly. And what I've seen from the city, and I'm sure the mayor will explain why, is what feels like way more bureaucracy than necessary, and a lot of people asking each other, how do we solve these problems? And those folks are people that haven't experienced them firsthand. So it's really difficult for them to figure out the answer. And then oftentimes you work with a consultant that is ultimately going to tell you, as a leader in your community, as a representative, to listen to the voices of the people impacted. So you're just paying them to tell you to listen to your constituents.
Thank you so much. And for Mayor Champlin, you convened a new Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Justice, and Belonging Committee, and the city hired a consultant to create an action plan. Since then, however, hasn't been since July, and there isn't yet an action plan. Where does this work fit into your priorities going forward, and when can residents expect to see change implemented?
Thanks. Well, the consultant was not hired to create an action plan. The consultant was hired to conduct focus groups so that we could have a little bit more scientific way to poll the community. The DEI-JB committee has a very diverse membership, people who represent a broad spectrum of people in our community, and that was by design. The consultant working with the DEI-JB committee conducted focus groups. We got some great information from that, and some positive feedback, and also some things that that probably should be worked on. Since then, the national landscape has really changed, and the DEI-JB committee has been trying to figure out how do we move forward within this context, within the context of what's going on nationally. We are meeting in about a week. One of the challenges we've had is that we do have members of the committee who have had high religious holidays that have prevented some of the dates, and also just trying to find space. It's a fairly large committee. But we are moving forward. And I think we're moving forward in a very positive way.
Unfortunately, it's time for closing statements. You can take your time in there if you want to use that.
Fair enough.
Once again, you'll have a minute for closing statements, and once again, we'll start with the mayor.
Thank you. Well, again, thanks, Concord Monitor. Thank you to Concord TV. Thank you to Kate for running. I appreciate you running in this race. And thank you to all of you for being here in person and all the people who are going to watch this on Concord TV. Again, my name is Byron Champlin. I urge you, whether you vote for me or Kate or anybody else, to get out to the polls on November 4th and cast your ballot. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at chamby@comcast.net. That's CHAMBY. If you see this, or if you're in this audience before October 18th, I have coffee with the mayor at Gibson's Bookstore Cafe, and from 9 to 10. That's on a Saturday. You're welcome, and I invite you to come and sit down and chat about any of the issues we've talked about, or any issues that are important to you that we haven't touched on. I love this city. Concord is in my heart, and I'd very much be honored if you'd give me another 2 years as mayor.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up, for being engaged, for wanting to still participate and talk to us and tell us what it is that's important to you. So I'll be hanging out a little bit afterwards, maybe in the parking lot, depending on the shutting down. But I would love to speak with you all as well. One thing I'd like to point out is if you have coffee with Byron, that's not going to be on the public record. So I do hope that you do consider voting for me. Again, I would really appreciate more access for folks to show up and really tell the council how they feel and what's important to them. And I've worked a long time trying to communicate with the system the way that it is. And I'm running because I haven't been able to get through. Those barriers haven't been dealt with. People still aren't able to access their representatives, and I would like to change that. Thank you.
Thank you both for coming. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone who joined us today at Millbrook School. We appreciate your time and your attention. Thank you to the Concord School District for having us here. Thank you to Concord TV for broadcasting this event. It's available on their YouTube page. That's Concord NHTV on YouTube. They will also be linked on our website on our Concord Votes page. And if you have questions about this race, about any of the other races, contested, uncontested, in Concord this year, we've put all that information in one place on our website, and it is available with the support of our subscribers as free access to the community. So I encourage you to share that resource with your friends and your neighbors. And we'll see you all on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.